thing, I got to ask you, how's Gamescom? How you holding up?
Tiring, very tiring. But look, it's been a good Gamescom for us. To be honest, it's probably the best trade show, or my favourite trade show in terms of how it's gone. Just because we actually have something to show that's decent. Yeah.
It sort of feels like before you talk and you talk, and this time you can sort of sit back.
Yeah, well, you know, we've talked and talked and talked, and now I think we're starting to put our money where our mouth is, you know, and say this is what we've done. We can actually do this in multiplayer now, and you know, we've made progress from E3. We showed a build at E3. It was very, very rough. That's a polite way of putting it. This is a lot less rough than that was.
Have you guys sort of scrambled to get this code up and running, especially for Gamescom? Is this just pretty much where you are?
Well, we've been crunching fully. Like I've basically worked just the last 3 weeks, no weekends, no nothing. I think I took like 1 day off to play. I was going to play your EU4, you know, the new Paradox game, but I started playing Crusader Kings II because you can transfer your save game. So then I just totally lost all time. So that was 1 day, but other than that, it's just been fully working. Not towards Gamescom, towards the alpha, and it just so happened that Gamescom was along. So
I'm not going to ask you to reiterate. I'm sure you've told millions of people this already, but can you give us just a brief overview about what you're actually showing here at Gamescom?
Sure. So you'd be surprised how often people don't ask that. Yeah, so what we're showing is the current development build of the game, and in fact every day we're producing a new build. So based on player feedback from yesterday, I made a few changes to the game for the build here today. We fixed some bugs with the damage working, so it really is sort of a live, this is where we're at with the game, and that's what we're showing. We're just showing our progress from E3. We're showing 30 people playing the game together in multiplayer. We're showing the bugs and all. Like the zombies are still very broken. I guess they're less broken than the mod, but we've actually announced that we are pausing work on the zombies pending a complete rewrite new proposal for it.
Part of charm sometimes having those little broken bits in. Gives a bit of personality, right?
Yeah, I think with DayZ, it's kind of synonymous with that. There's actually been a couple of bugs that are kind of funny. I think zombies, though, people don't find that funny anymore. They want a solution. I've tried, and the parameters that we have for the existing way the AI works, I've tried for a number of months, and I think we've reached a point where we've decided that what I've developed is not acceptable, and we want to go back and redo that. It's not necessarily as much work as it sounds, but you know, we've reached the end of that process, and we've decided what we've done is not acceptable, so we're going to redo it. So,
you guys just love punishing yourselves at work, right?
Yeah, but I think it's paid off. Like I was talking with Marek, our CEO, before, so. Like at the end of last year was a very grim time. I'd made all these bold ideas about moving from a string-oriented inventory system to an object-oriented inventory system, just seemed really bold, and we had nothing to show for it. We decided that we'd have to completely change our approach and go to kind of basically revising the engine from the ground up. And I mean, it just seemed like we'd gone way too bold. But then things just started to come together. Sort of around January, things just started to work. And I mean, it has been, you know, we're 8 months later, but I think we've really reached the point now. Today, it feels like we actually have a game. And I think there are probably a lot of people who've played the public build who probably didn't like it because it's not super intuitive, but I think it's come a long way from the mod. And I think a lot of the people who are familiar with the mod will look at it and say, there's a game there now. You can actually have fun.
I was going to say, so is there a sort of renewed sense of purpose in the studio?
Yes, I think so. I think more than ever, we're kind of at that point now where we've had a very small team, because having a small team means you can be very creative. Now what we're actually doing is infusing people. When I get back from Gamescom, we're actually moving into a new office. We're hiring heaps more people, basically anyone we need. We're also moving people from other Bohemia projects that are closing up on and bringing in their experience. So yeah, you know, it's an exciting time for us. It's very stressful though as well, but it's kind of like you want to work on it all the time now. It's now we're adding new stuff and adding new stuff in based on existing architecture, so it's not difficult. It's like adding content is really fun.
Just building on those foundations. Well, what's your roadmap, apart from moving into the new office, obviously, for the next while? I mean, you got this all planned out?
Yeah, so the alpha is critically important. I think anyone who's played it today will understand the importance of getting player feedback, because we're all too close, particularly me, to the product to be able to say definitively what features are good and what need work. So getting the player metrics, so just studying the data based on how players are playing the game, and getting their general feedback and opinions from some of the kind of experts like dyslexia. You know, there's some people in the community who are real experts and give really good commentary. So getting the feedback from them and the YouTubers and the streamers and Reddit and NeoGAF and all the forums and, you know, Game Informer comments and stuff like that, these are all really important to us. So once we've got the last lot of work done on our alpha and we actually go alpha, we'll release that. We'll get feedback, we'll spend a month or so tidying up bugs, and then we'll start to look at some of the more advanced functions that we wanted to add, like we're going to start with vehicle mechanics and how you build up a vehicle and take like a door off a vehicle and put it on another door, that kind of stuff.
Sort of feels like it's very much like a documentary, this, because you're almost, people are seeing you learning as you go.
Yeah, hopefully I learn and don't make the same mistake too many times, like giving release dates. But I think, yeah, I think so. I think people like being part of it. But I also think that it actually makes the project stronger. So it's going to be weird, but I'm going to use another game as an example. So you guys know Kerbal Space Program? Oh, wow, that is a crying shame. You should definitely go back and Google Kerbal Space Program. But this is a game made by a studio called Squad in Mexico, of all places. And it's a little thing where you build this rocket and you fire it up. Now, it started as a very basic idea, and they were selling the alpha for it. But its popularity grew as a result of releasing this alpha. And as it grew, the game design and scope changed and became much more interesting and larger. Now, I'm confident that if they'd finished the game before they released the alpha, the scope would have never allowed to have grown. And I think this is a unique thing about releasing your game early. You can actually allow the scope to modify and grow. And that's something very powerful that an indie can do that a big publisher and a big studio can't, because they have lots of people and they're all in milestones and checklists and you got to do this and you got to do that. The power we have is that with DayZ, we have this community out there and they can get involved with the game. We can see how they're playing it and we can go, wow, you know, wouldn't it be great if you could do this? And we can, bam, just do that and mix it in. So yeah, we're talking about at least a year of further development once the alpha's released, at least. I mean, that was before sort of the success of today's show. I think, you know, we could be even talking any longer. You know, we're already starting to make serious thoughts about how we would actually approach things like the base building and the vehicle mechanics, just based on the fact that we realize that what we've done now, we can make all this work properly.
You feel like perhaps we're talking about the experts there. Do you feel like sometimes the actual players know your game better than you do?
I think they do. They definitely know the game better than you. But I think sometimes human motivation, they want things that if they got, they wouldn't necessarily want, if that makes sense. Sometimes. So I'll give you an example. With the DayZ mod itself, it's kind of grown into there being lots of vehicles and everything is quite plentiful. And that's because players want the exciting stuff, right? They want to get a car, they desire it. But kind of if you give the person that too early, then there's sort of no more motivation to play the game. So with DayZ, we're going much more, I don't know if you know the film or the book The Road. So that's really where we're heading. So you have a few rounds in your weapon. Instead of shooting someone, you're going to try and hold them up. Maybe you're going to tie them up and restrain them. Because if you, as well in DayZ as it is now, if you shoot someone, wherever you shoot them, you destroy their items. So if they've got items in their trousers and you shoot the trousers, you're going to damage the trousers and you're going to damage the items. So there's new motivations that have appeared in DayZ.
Yeah. Listen, thanks very much indeed for taking the time to talk to us. Best of luck with it.
No worries. Thanks. It's always good to talk to you guys.
Oh God, the car, Jesus.
Oh Jesus! Well, quick, get to the car, get to the car, get to the car, they're eating them!
I'm on your team, bro.
We're gonna take, we're gonna kill all the shit, okay? I'm fed up with this. These hours now.